Chris Skelzer here with
Matt Howell.
On this episode of The First Run, Matt and I are going to discuss James Gray's sci-fi epic starring Brad Pitt, Ad Astra. Our car marathon, or is it our car chase marathon? Is that a more apt description?
Yes,
begins.
it is.
Awesome. With Vanishing Point, a film I blind bought 4 years ago, Matt, and have never watched. So finally, I got to catch up with that. We'll tell you what's coming up on Blu-Ray and DVD this week, including your straight-to-DVD and streaming picks of the week. And then finally, we're going to discuss our 5 favorite scenes that take place in space. All right? Very, very strict about this. It can't be, Matt, on a planet. It has to occur in space, because if it occurs on a planet, then anything on Earth would count. Right? So, our 5 favorite space scenes. But let's start everything off with a little clip from Ad Astra.
Your profile is certainly very impressive. You've done exceptionally well on all the assessment tests, basic combat, space training. We have something of a highly classified nature to show you.
Major, what can you tell us about the Lima project?
First manned expedition to the outer solar system, sir. Some 29 years ago.
And the commander was?
It was my father, sir. The ship disappeared approximately 16 years into the mission. And no data was ever recovered. Deep space missions were halted after that.
Roy, we have something that might come as quite a shock to you. We believe your father is still alive near Neptune.
My father's alive, sir?
We believe so.
Damn! So, Matt, why don't you tell the fine folks at home or on the road, maybe working out on that elliptical, shooting some hoops, whatever it is the kids do today, what is Ad Astra all about?
Sure, it's the near future. Trump has successfully created his Space Force, and Brad Pitt is a major in the Space Command. His father is a bit of a legend as the first human to travel beyond Mars, and he made it all the way to Neptune in an effort to try and get past the, sun's interference so they could look for extraterrestrial life when they lose contact with him. Then, years later, the strange and deadly signals that are coming from Neptune around where his father disappeared because they think that what's threatening Earth has something to do with his mission.
Sounds like fun. So my question for you, is Ad Astra a new science fiction classic or a dull therapy session in space?
I think it's the former. I think it leans more towards the former. I really enjoyed this. I appreciated the kind of, I would say the kind of thought that was put in behind the space travel, and something that seemed very feasible with how that they were doing things. There were a couple things that they never really explained how they got, but I guess it really wasn't necessary. But I did like kind of the implications of the psychological stresses of space travel and the kind of, as they continue to go out and the further they're out and the longer they're out, the more stressful it becomes. I thought it was a really interesting film. It kind of reminded me in a weird way of The Tree of Life. I don't know why. I think it's really just more, it had the same kind of vibe, especially with all of Brad Pitt's voiceovers, because he does a lot of narration in this. And to be quite honest with you folks, I mean, this is like a Brad Pitt showcase. There's everybody else in the film is basically... It's almost like a cameo or a very slight side role. I mean, nobody else really kind of takes up the screen beyond like Brad Pitt and the specter of his father.
No, that's true. So, okay, I think that's fair. I found it to be, at some points, almost sublime. Like, epic in its visuals, in illustrating how large, the challenges can be that even maybe originate from small beginnings, to quote, Alien Covenant in some capacity. But how all of this starts basically because of one man and his brokenness is what triggers all of these events. And I think that Gray, as you said, does a really interesting job of marrying the emotional complexity with some, I think, fairly believable science fiction, as well as some really kind of, I don't want to say outrageous, but really crazy moments. You get space monkeys, you get moon pirates. Lots of almost B genre type stuff, but works. It works. But I feel I can't. So here's where I think this may be a fault of mine. Is it too good? Meaning the film at long stretches for me felt almost sterile and arid. I think that may be a successful portrayal of the emptiness and loneliness of space. And you said just the toll it takes on the psyche. But even those emotional moments, I feel, have the same distance. Especially in the moments involving family.
Mm-hmm.
But again, I think that's the point.
Yeah.
So I feel I'm almost unfairly holding that against it because it's doing exactly what it sets out to do.
Right. Yeah, I think it definitely accomplishes what it sets out to do. And I think this isn't a film that I think a lot of people I don't think it's going to be a broadly appreciated film, just because I think your enjoyment with it really depends on your ability to connect with it. And I didn't really seem to I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, I was kind of just fascinated from beginning to end, just kind of this world that they've set up. And I was, in the characters and everything that was going on in it. So I was fully invested. So even the more outlandish stuff, like the B movie things, like the moon pirates and the escaped baboons in space and stuff, it didn't roll my eyes as thinking that those were cheesy elements. They seemed plausible. So I mean, I was completely invested in it. So I was right on board with this film.
It was really interesting and fascinating. The moments where they ratchet up the tension, I think, really work. I think the emotional keys and the decisions and the character arcs that everybody have. As you say, everybody more is a bit player as they revolve around Brad Pitt's solar system, basically, right? He's the center point, and everything else are the things pulled within his gravitational pull, right? So, but yeah, except for one. There's one cameo with Natasha Lyonne that just was kind of weird.
Yeah,
I always enjoy seeing her, but it was like the one thing out of the entire film that almost kind of pulled me out of me being dragged and sucked into this creation that Gray was able to put together for us.
Yeah, there were a couple of things. I mean, when Ruth Negga first shows up, I remember she got some billing, in the ads and stuff, and she was there, and I literally thought, I was like, is that it? Is that all I'm going to see of Ruth Negga? Yeah. Like this one little scene, and she does show up later, but yeah, it was... I think there's a lot of that going on in this film. It's really like a true ensemble. People show up for a day and film their part and then leave.
Yeah, it does have this vastness to it. It feels like a large film. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. I really don't know. I wonder if we're going to look back on this thing like in a couple years and think it was like a modern classic. There are some people claiming that now, comparing it to like a representation of space as Apocalypse Now was for the Vietnam War.
Right.
And I can see that. I do.
Right.
And I think as I said, I think it's almost a victim of its success as it treats its emotional component exceptionally well and accurately. Mm-hmm. But by doing so, pushes me away.
Right.
So, I'm sitting at Ad Astra, Matt, right now. I've had it at an A, a B+, and an A-.
Well, I don't want to influence your decision, but I'm going to give it an A-. It's a well-realized, like, at times haunting, at times breathtaking visuals on the screen.
Good score.
Great score, good performances, just odd touches, just strange touches that I loved. Like, even just when they're on Mars, the shifting of the light for no apparent reason. It was just fascinating to kind of see all that come together. So I loved it. I gave it an A-. Although it does definitely make me not want to go to space. Anytime I see a realistic space movie, I'm like, I'm good. I don't need to go up there. I really would only go to space if it's cruise ships in space, which is Star Trek.
That is true. And then they do capture the whole commercialization of space travel too. Mm-hmm. And then at one point when they're touching down on, it's the moon, right? There's an Applebee's sign. There's a lot of that.
Yeah. Or when he asks for a pillow and he has to pay $125 to get one.
And that's what's going to happen. That's entirely what's going to happen.
Yep.
Man. You know what? I had B+, I had A, and I had A-. So I'm going to split the difference, even though it ends up marrying you. And I'm going to go with the A- as well.
I think that's the right choice.
I'm glad we're finally agree.
Finally agree. After all these years.
If you've had a chance to see Ad Astra, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Ad Astra is currently playing in theaters now. I got to see it in IMAX too, which was fun. I did enjoy that big screen experience. We'll have to see. It's not doing particularly well, so.
I mean, that just shouldn't surprise anybody. I mean, it's for all it is. I mean, it's basically a high budget or a higher budget art film.
Yeah,
so it's not going to connect with everybody.
Sadly, no. All right, Matt. Let's spend a few minutes and talk about what's coming up on Blu-ray and DVD this upcoming Tuesday, October 8th. 2 big films coming up, and one of them is going to include the extended director's cut. And here's a clip.
Okay, can you slow down? Just wait a sec. Hey,
please, Christian. This is feeling really wrong. We need to leave.
I know that this is weird, but it's because it's alien.
No.
We haven't been exposed to anything like this.
Christian, no, please. This is completely backwards.
We just need to
leave.
acclimate.
I don't want to acclimate. I want to go.
Well, I can't. I'm sorry. Period. I'm doing my thesis on this.
What? Since when?
Since I decided today. You know how much of a nightmare this has been for me to figure out. And I've made the mistake of telling Josh, and now he's competing with me.
So if he wants it, let him have it. We need to leave.
Can you not see what's going on here? This level of tradition? No one's seen this. No one's written anything on it. And they've invited us to be a part of it. Can't you see what a privilege that is?
Why invited us?
Because Pele did.
Why did Pele?
Because he trusts us.
Why would they trust us?
So that is the clip from Midsommar. Ari Aster's follow-up to the fantastic Hereditary. Now, there is some dispute as to what's coming up. Now, the director's cut supposedly exclusive to iTunes. So the Blu-ray is coming, and it does include a digital code. Mm-hmm. So, but what I'm unclear of is it appears that said digital code may not include access to iTunes, which is unusual. Typically, like with The Evil Dead, right? They released that director's cut. Mm-hmm. Well, when I bought The Evil Dead, it included a digital code. And initially, this is a remake, mind you. That initially, it didn't include an iTunes copy. It was only, what was that crappy one? Ultraviolet.
Right.
But when they married with, it's the third time I've used that word today. That's weird. But when Movies Anywhere came up and all the studios kind of got on board, I think except for Paramount and is it Lionsgate? Either way. All of a sudden, The Evil Dead director's cut, or the digital copy showed up in my iTunes library, and it included the unrated director's cut. And of course, this happened 2 weeks after I bought the director's cut on Blu-ray, which had its own separate release. So I kind of got screwed on that one. But that's fine. Physical media, right?
Right.
That's where I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Do I get it and then just fingers crossed on the director's cut? I don't know. So all I'm saying, folks, is do your research. Make sure that director's cut is included in your Blu-ray, in your digital copy. If not, just buy it straight from iTunes. And I know not everybody's a big iTunes person, so maybe at some point it'll be readily available everywhere. I think it's kind of BS that it's only iTunes exclusive, but whatever. It includes a featurette as well and a promo for The Bear in a Cage, which you can watch on YouTube right now, which is very, very funny. Toy Story 4, Matt, is the other big release. Includes a steelbook from Best Buy, a digibook from Target. There are 6 deleted scenes and a 7th one in the digital version of the film. Audio commentary and some other making-of featurettes. Really a sequel that is so much better than I expected it to be. I was really impressed with Toy Story 4. Yourself?
I enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it quite as much as you did, but I had a good time with it.
Yeah, it's the first one that's actually kind of scary, too, which I enjoyed. Now, taking a huge step down, Annabelle Comes Home is being released as well. Includes some deleted scenes and featurettes. Man, what a disappointment that was, especially after the last one, which was so good. The Shudder original Gwen is getting a physical copy release. It's a dark folk tale set in the hills of Wales during the Industrial Revolution. Nightmare Beach, also known as Welcome to Spring Break, starring John Saxon and Michael Parks. It's a late 70s, early 80s kind of horror slasher film. Deadwood, the movie, is getting a physical copy release as well, but you can watch it on HBO. Then new to Blu-ray, Criterion is giving us 3 silent classics by Josef von Sternberg. Includes Underworld, The Last Command, and The Docks of New York. All include high-definition digital restorations and more. Warner Archive is giving us the anthology classic from Amicus, From Beyond the Grave, just in time for Halloween. Sidney Pollack's The Electric Horseman, starring Robert Redford and Jane Fonda, is getting released on Blu-ray. I think it's Shout Factory is giving us Shazam, the complete live-action series. Brand new remasters of each show. I have never seen a single episode of that, Matt. Have you?
No, I have not. I didn't even know there was one.
Oh yeah, I think it's in the from the 70s too, so you know it's horrible. A couple films getting released on Blu-ray for the first time. My Boyfriend's Back, Primary Colors, Sergeant Bilko, Fatherhood, and Dudley Do-Right. And then finally, your straight-to-DVD pick of the week, Killer of Dolls. In this bizarre and totally unique piece of Spanish horror, David Roca plays Paul, a young man thrown out of medical school due to his inability to deal with the sight of blood. He goes home to Montpellier in France, where his father is a gardener on a huge estate belonging to the Countess Olivia. We soon discover that the fear of blood is Paul's not his only quirk, Matt. He is raised as a girl after his sister died and likes to play with dolls, performing strange operations on them, attempting to extract their hearts. Meanwhile, unrelated, in the park surrounding the Countess's home, a number of young girls have been found murdered. The killer seems to be a mysterious individual wearing a black wig, a white doll mask, and speaking with a woman's voice. As the killings multiply around him, Paul sinks ever deeper into a world of hallucination and nightmare. Supposedly this is some big-time kind of horror film from Spain that has not been available in a physical copy for years and years. And Mondo Macabre, I can't remember what it is now, but they're releasing it on Blu-ray for the first time.
All right.
What should we be streaming this week?
Available on HBO Go. It hasn't gone out to the broader streaming services yet, but I did want to bring it up because it is something I finally got to catch up with, and it's something I've been wanting to see. They Shall Not Grow Old, which is Peter Jackson's World War I documentary using archival footage that he colorized, is finally available. It's just a fascinating look at a war that we don't really talk about anymore, and really one that really shaped a lot of the beginnings of the modern world, and it's a fascinating look. And I'm sure at some point it will go onto broader streaming services. But if you have the opportunity to watch on HBO Go or HBO Band, it's available.
Yeah, I've been listening to Dan Carlin's Hardcore History and his World War I stuff right now, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. So I do want to take a look at that and watch that as well. Awesome. All right, Matt, let's talk about the first film in our car chase marathon, Vanishing Point. My question for you, Matt, will be, I'm looking forward to Cars Go Boom Boom, but was it my mind that went boom boom? Here's a clip.
And there goes the Challenger being chased by the blue meanies on wheels. The vicious traffic squad cars are after our lone driver, the last American hero, the electric centaur, the demigod, the super driver of the Golden West. Two nasty Nazi cars are close behind the beautiful lone driver. The police numbers are getting closer to our soul hero in his soul mobile. Yeah, baby, they're about to strike. They're gonna get him, smash him, rape the last beautiful free soul on this planet. But it is written, if the evil spirit arms the tiger with claws, Brahman provided wings for the dove. Thus spake the super guru.
So that is Super Soul something. I'm blanking on the guy's name now.
Yeah,
Super Soul. That's it. Cleavon Little plays Super Soul. He's a DJ who's kind of guiding our guy Kowalski. So Kowalski, Matt, is a car delivery driver, all right? And he has to get this white Challenger to San Francisco by 3 p.m. He doesn't have a choice, Matt. In fact, I think the quote, got no choice, which ends up meaning something, I think. So he's got to get all the way from Denver to San Francisco, and he unfortunately breaks a few laws on the way, perhaps some speeding matters. Cops are hot on his tail. And he's able to elude them. He runs into odd and different casts of characters on his way till he meets his ultimate destination. Matt, I was able to pick this up a few years ago as part of a sale. I think I got it for like $4 on Blu-ray. My Blu-ray comes with two different versions, Matt. The US version and the UK edition. It turns out the UK edition is like 9 minutes or 7 minutes longer.
Okay.
And has one key scene starring or featuring Charlotte Rampling.
Okay.
When he picks her up as a hitchhiker on the side of the road. What version did you see? Did you see Charlotte?
No, I don't. I don't think so. So let me just check here. I'm.
Did he pick up a woman in black and get high with her in his car?
No. I saw the American version then.
Okay. So my question for you, Matt, is this simply just a car chase movie, or is there something else much deeper going on here?
It's definitely not just a car chase movie. So I enjoy the kind of simple pleasure of the car chase movie. Like when they're done well, I think it's very fun and they're very exhilarating, which is kind of why I picked this. I'm a big fan of Death Proof. I know it's not Tarantino's most beloved film, but I really enjoy it. I think it's underrated. And I'd always heard, obviously that's referenced, this film is referenced in that film. And I had always heard that this was basically just a wall-to-wall car chase. And I'm watching this film, and it almost seems like a more abstract and maybe even possibly artistic version of Easy Rider, where it's saying something about the culture and the kind of changing of how things are going in the world in America at that time.
Yeah.
But at some points it's so abstract to the point of it's almost obtuse. And I had to sit there and say, what in the hell is even going on with this right now? And it's a lot to take in, and it's definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah. So a couple things. First off, man, a lot of the music in the 70s was really hit and miss. Let me tell you. And a lot of stuff in this is not terribly good. I was expecting a kick-ass car chase movie.
Yeah.
And what I get is an existential meditation on life, death, and potentially the afterlife. So let me explain to you what's happening here.
Okay.
According to Richard Serafian, who directed the film, his interpretation of this story is that Kowalski is a spirit who just happens to be currently inhabiting this body. And by the end of this film, it's time for him to move on. There are some people who think that this whole film is a flashback right until the end of the movie.
Okay.
Like, the whole thing is him having a flashback in his mind right before the film concludes.
Gotcha.
Charlotte Rampling's character, the UK version, is Death. Okay, she doesn't have a name. They're having a conversation, and she says to him, I've been waiting for you for a long time. In fact, I may have always been waiting for you. And then they get high and make out. So, but, and they cut that scene for the US version, because I guess they felt that it may have been a little too much of a metaphor. Well, but it may have been confusing for people as to what was the whole point of that.
Right.
Which I think is an insult to American audiences. I think most people would be able to put that together. And I'm cool with this. And I think maybe at times the film may have tried to be a little too cool for its own good, but I'll tell you, I was never bored.
No.
And the car scenes themselves, when they're chasing each other, they were pretty thrilling. It may slow down a bit too much when we have our interludes, like when they meet up with the guy on the motorcycle and his friend who she's always naked for some reason.
Yes.
Which was weird and odd. But hey, man, it's the 70s, man, right? Peace.
Right. Just riding around the desert, butt naked. Stranger shows up, doesn't even bother to cover up at all, and asks if they, if they want to screw.
That's right.
He turns her down, and she presses. She's like, "Are you sure?" several times, and he still says no. Odd film, man.
It was weird. Like it's the end. Well, like you say, all right. It's Easy Rider. It's the 60s are over, right? After all of that, what's happened? What's changed? And what's next?
Right.
So,
and and I mean, it's even like all the drugs and stuff in it. It's not like weed and acid and stuff that's kind of mellow or mind opening stuff. It's speed, which people get aggressive and violent and edgy and stuff like that. And just the whole, it's like, it's all that, taking all that same stuff and just kind of tweaking it into something a little more ugly, even with the cops and other things. And even at the end, just the crowd just kind of callously kind of gawking and rubbernecking to see what happened without any kind of regard of what they saw. It's just it's a heavy film, man. It's heavy, man. It's heavy.
But still, it's interesting. It's a fun-ish car chase movie with a bit of a message, trying to deal with the malaise of a generation that maybe thought they'd change the world, but didn't quite.
Yeah, I enjoyed it, but it's not exactly what I was expecting.
So, Matt, it clearly isn't the QT homage you were expecting, right? We're thinking this whole ultra fast, almost violent car chase stuff with bad guys and fast girls and all that stuff. And it's not, I mean, there's bits of that, but that's not what this film's about at all.
No, it's not.
So, interesting. But I still enjoyed it. In fact, I am going to give the Vantage Points a B+. What about you?
I gave it a B just because it caught me completely off guard.
Yeah, I think that's fair. In fact, when the film ended, I was like, is that it? And then I'm like, that's it. Like the Flight of the Conchords from Business Time. She says, is that it? And I know what you're saying, baby. Oh, yeah, that's it. And it all made sense. If you've seen Vanishing Point, shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com. Matt, why don't we go ahead then and try and wrestle this filly. Why am I talking about horses and stuff? It doesn't make any sense. All right, let's talk about what our 5 favorite space scenes are.
Cooper.
Messages span 23 years.
Play it from the beginning.
Hey, Dad. Checking in. Saying hi. Finished second in school. This currently still giving me C, so pulled me down, but second's not bad. Grandpa attended the ceremony. Oh, I met another girl, Dad. I really think this is the one. Her name's Lois. That's her right there. Murphy stole Grandpa's car. She crashed it. She's okay, though. Hey, Dad. Look at this. Your Grandpa. His name's Jesse. I kind of wanted to call him Coop, but Lois says, maybe next time.
So that is the heart-wrenching scene from Interstellar when Matthew McConaughey and Anne Hathaway's characters return from being gone for a short while. That was actually 23 years, and they're catching up with their messages, and McConaughey is just devastated watching all of these video messages from his family from 2 decades. So, Matt, Interstellar did not make the cut from me. It almost did. Particularly, it was going to be that Event Horizon scene. Mm-hmm. But overall, or maybe the wave scene wouldn't work because they're on a planet. So it was that Event Horizon scene. So,
right.
But still, Interstellar. Not making the cut. So start everything off for us. What is your 5th favorite scene in space?
In space. All right, so this may be a cheat, but I don't care. So my number 5 is the space dance in WALL-E, where WALL-E and Eve are out in space, free floating. She goes out to rescue him and thinks for a moment that he is dead or shut down. And he kind of starts back up, and they have a joyful dance in space while he propels himself with a fire extinguisher, and it's lovely. It's a lovely little slice of the happiness of space.
Wow, that is, what all I have to say about that is it is my number 5 as well.
Okay,
that's exactly it. And God, this show is boring. Yes, I absolutely adored that thing. My heart flew just as much as Wall-E's as he's doing his little dance for Eva. And it fills you up, man. Makes your eyes get all big and a little tear escapes, and it's just a wonderful, dare I say, perfect film. So that is a good pick, Matt. I'm glad.
Thank you. I appreciate that you approve.
Thank you.
It happens very rarely. So my number 4 is the disaster in Gravity. So basically, the disintegration of of satellites in a huge debris cloud, kind of this rolling doom as it comes, whipping through silently through space, and they just can't get away. And just the kind of the horror of it approaching, and what are you going to do in this incredibly hostile environment? And the way it's filmed is just, it had me on the edge of my seat. It was some scary stuff. It was very, very impressive. So That's my number 4.
Yeah, that was my number 6, actually.
Okay.
But that's a good one. My number 4, then, is Han and friends hiding from the Star Destroyer in Star Wars when they're on the Star Destroyer.
Yep.
It's one of my... I don't know what it is about that scene, but I absolutely love it. And the Millennium Falcon disappears from the Star Destroyer's, what is it, radar, sensors, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Because it turns out they somehow landed on the backside of the, whatever it is, the bridge thing, whatever.
Right.
And they're hiding right there. But the whole space scene, they're fighting and they're dodging and they're doing all that stuff, and they end up being right there. And they escape when they release all the trash. But yeah, so there you go. That was my 4.
So my number 3 is a film I just referenced earlier in the review, and this, I hope this is not a cheat, but it's Creation in Tree of Life, where it basically follows through the Big Bang creation of, you know, the universe and the galaxy and the solar system and the planet, and just how all of that's coalescing in this long just silent scene, just images and just no words, no narration, and you're just supposed to follow along. I loved it. I know that film is a bit of a sit. There are some parts of it that I really connected with. I really enjoyed, and that's the main one.
That's a great pick. In fact, I think I want it to be my number 4. Now I think about it. I had forgotten all about that. Yeah, that was fantastic. Yeah, but I'm a man of integrity. Speaking of which, my number 3 is... I have 2 listed here because I couldn't decide between the 2 of them which one I wanted to use. One is majestic and grand, with one of the best scores of a film you'll ever hear. The second is fun and action-packed. Which would you choose, Matt, between those 2?
I guess I would go with the grand, personally.
So then that would be the flyover of the USS Enterprise from Star Trek The Motion Picture.
Okay.
With the score by... Was it William Gold? Wow, I am blanking on... Is it Goldman that did the score for that?
I don't know why you're asking me. You're the score guy.
I am so disappointed in myself right now. Let's look it up. I have it, of course, in my iTunes library. Jerry Goldsmith. That's right. Not William Goldman. Jerry Goldsmith. Thank you. You're welcome. Now, it may run long. I think it's like 8 minutes. And you feel every second of it. But it is cool just to get, especially if you see this on the big screen, which they did the 40th anniversary screening of it just about 2 weeks ago. You could have gone to a theater and see it as part of one of those Fathom event things. But Scotty and Kirk are in the shuttle going to dock on the Enterprise, and it goes through the whole thing, and it's lit up, and there's all these different shots, and like I said, it's long, but the swelling of the music, and it's just, it's absolutely fantastic. My cheat was Star Trek II, The Battle in the Batari Nebula.
Oh, right, yeah.
Which is a lot of fun as well.
It is.
Because the, the sensors are shot, right? So they can't, and there's just you can just see intermittently where the screen clears up enough, and
and we as the audience can see more than they can because, you know, we're outside the ship and they're so close to each other.
Yep.
It's a tense little scene.
There you go.
It's like tall ships in the fog, right? Very cool. All right, so my number 2 is actually Interstellar. It's not the Event Horizon scene. It's actually much simpler. It's when they first see the singularity, the black hole, for the first time, and just knowing that Nolan gone through the effort of not only consulting with like top astrophysicists, but having them work with the visual effects department to kind of develop a program to kind of mathematically work out visually how a black hole might actually look. And just reading about how all of that happened, and how scientifically this was actually kind of a breakthrough plan, because normally a scientist would not have access to the kind of money that would be involved needed to make it look this good, just by the fact that actually is, as far as we know right now, scientifically accurate, all the more impressive. And it is just some breathtaking shots when you see that black hole and the swirling matter around it for the first time.
So we did have some tech issues there. I want to state that just to clarify. So you're saying what happened was Nolan went to like NASA or scientists, whatever, to have them say, all right, well, you know, what would happen if we actually saw or went to a black hole? And then they were able to, he provided them, or they had the ability to, with the money for the production of the film, to visually create what it would look like. And they didn't, and which is technology that they would not have had access to independent?
Yeah. Basically, they work with the visual effects and the VFX people, and they created like an algorithm and formulas for the computer to render what it would actually look like.
That's awesome, man. I haven't watched that in a few years now. Maybe it's due for a rerun there in November once I get through all the horror films I want to watch this month. There
you go. Well, November is family time, so you can watch uplifting family films, right? Or ones that make you feel closer to the ones you love.
Yeah, but I hate family. But mine's cool.
The ones you love. The ones you love.
Okay. My number 2 then is in 2001, when Bowman and Poole realized that HAL 9000 has gone mad. And they're in the escape pod, right, talking to each other, but Hal is reading their lips to see what they're saying. Even before that, though, when Bowman's kind of doing his calculations and looking like, wait a minute. And the weirdest thing is how brilliant Kubrick is it only, even though it's only a red dot of light, right, you're able to project or see just this, tension and fear and the suspense building, and you're like, man, that thing, what's going on? What is it thinking? What's it doing? You could almost feel like you know what it's doing and thinking, even though it's just a red light.
Right.
It's the man was a master, clearly.
Yes, he was.
So that's my number 2, though.
Well, I clearly agree with you because 2001 is also my number 1, and almost that same scene. It's really more focused on when he kills the one astronaut, and then the other astronaut is trying to figure out a way to get in. And he trying to maneuver the pod, and he can't do it, and it's all relatively scientifically accurate. It's silent, and it's eerie, and he has to blow through the airlock and use the decompression force to throw him through space without wearing a helmet while he tries to scramble on before he suffocates and freezes to death. That was something that blew me away the first time I saw it. It really kind of brought home how hostile a place that space really is.
I think it's interesting that neither of us chose the part, though, when they actually he travels to the alien zoo.
Right.
What do you think that is? Is it just because, does it feel a little dated at this point now? Special effects?
Maybe, but I guess for me, I was trying to stick to something that was actually like truly like in space kind of thing, and then that seemed like more like a soft science fiction kind of thing, even though Wally's Space Dance is not exactly the hardest of science fiction. I'll allow that. I just felt it didn't fit the spirit of what we were trying to get at here.
Fair enough. I think that's good. So that was your 1?
That was my number 1, yes.
Wow, I'm surprised that this next one didn't make your list.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be the alien birth out of Kane from the film Alien when it pops out of his chest. I struggle with thinking of a more memorable scene that took place in space in any film ever.
Right.
And it's so I just everything seems fine, right? The face hugger's on his face, it injects something or it injects the egg into him. But then it falls off and dies. Well, they don't know it injected anything in him, right? It didn't impregnate him at that point.
Right.
So it just falls off and dies, and he's having dinner with everybody, catching up, everybody's laughing, and then the worst case of indigestion in space history.
Hits those space truckers. Yeah, I thought about putting in the space truckers, but I decided against it.
Fair enough.
Because I liked the list that I came up with.
Yeah, and I made sure, too. I'm like, wait, were they still on the planet when that happened? Nope, they had lifted off. They were gone.
They were in their space truck.
Yeah. So do you have any space truck? Do you have any honorable mentions?
Yeah, so I had 3. I wanted just I didn't put any Star Wars on here, and I just wanted to put in 3. My only honorable mentions are from them. So first, obviously, is the entry of the Star Destroyer in the original film. That kind of introduced you to that kind of scope and scale of what you're going to be looking for. That thing just seems to go on forever, which is really nothing that you'd ever seen before. The Holdo maneuver from The Last Jedi, where she jumps to light speed and just slices the Star Destroyer in half, is just a beautiful image. And it's probably one of my favorite images of any of the films, regardless of what you think about it. And I also, the entire scene of Han Solo doing the Kessel Run with the Star Destroyers coming out of the nebula and all that kind of stuff, I thought that was a lot of fun. So I really enjoyed that. So I put that in there as well.
That's from Solo.
From Solo, yes.
Wow, nice to see Solo getting some love.
Mm-hmm. It's a lot better movie than people give it credit for. I think they were unfairly harsh on it. I don't think it's great, but it's a lot of fun. And people, I think, realize that now.
Yeah. So the only other mention that I had that we didn't discuss would be, I think, Ripley, again from Alien, when she realizes the alien is on board in the escape pod.
Yeah.
But those are good. I admire your restraint in regards to Star Wars stuff. And I think your Star Wars picks may have been better than the one I actually had on my list. So good for you. You
Thanks.
have thoroughly embarrassed me in this top 5 list. So well done.
Well, it happens like once or twice a year, so enjoy it now, guys. Mark it down. This is it.
So what are your 5 favorite scenes that take place in space? Shoot us an email at feedback@thefirstrun.com and let us know. We'd love to hear about them. Next week, Matt, the internet will break.
Mm-hmm.
We will be discussing The Joker. Also, our car chase marathon continues. We're doing Gone in 60 Seconds, right? The original.
Yeah,
next week.
We're going to do the original Gone in 60 Seconds.
So that'll be fun. And more. There'll be lots of fun stuff coming up in the next few weeks. So stay tuned. As always, everybody, check us out on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Do a search for The First Run. Scroll. Eventually, you will find us. Go over to Apple Podcasts and give us a review. That's how other people will find the show. And always, you can check us out at thefirstrun.com, where you can find archived episodes of the show, as well as some other stuff that we do, the report card. You can see what we grade stuff over the years and more. Lots of fun stuff on the site. Why don't we go ahead then, take an extended break, and we will see you all soon.
Con bloodsucker. You're gonna have to do your own dirty work now. Do you hear me? Do you?
Kirk, you're still alive, my old friend.
Still, old friend. You've managed to kill just about everyone else, but like a poor marksman, you keep missing the target.